Yo guys, what's going on? Bunzy Chan, you're back in another video, and today we are talking about rotation. As either yesterday or day before yesterday, depending on when I want to upload this video. Rotation was announced for the 2017-2018 season, and we are losing 4 sets this year. We are losing Primal Clash, Double Crisis, Roaring Skies, and Ancient Origins. So I thought we'd go through each set and see what we're losing and talk about what the impact of that is going to be on the meta. Starting off with the Primal Clash Pokemon. Scrolling through here, I'm not really seeing a whole lot. Let me just keep going through. Bunnelby was really cool in some mill decks like Houndoom Mill. Some people were even playing with Garbodor to cause a milling type of deck to basically discard 2 cards along with Team Rocket's Handiwork to force items into your opponent's discard pile, and then use Garbodor to close out the game. The deck never really saw a whole lot of competitive success, so not really a big loss there. I know this card though is some people's favorite cards because it does have the Barrage Ancient trait, lets you attack twice, so you can mill 2 cards off your opponent's deck, up to 6 cards if you use Team Rocket's Handiwork. Pretty powerful combination right there, but never really saw a whole lot of success. Camera was never really that successful, not that great of a card. As we keep going through Primal Clash here, we do lose Excadrill. Again, another Pokemon with Ancient Trait Barrage, letting it attack twice. There's always that combo of using Dredge to grab a double Carlos and a DCE. Grab a DCE, or just grab 2 Metal Energies and put on to Excadrill, and then use Match Claw for 50. People were combining this with Delmise for a little while to raise that damage up a little bit, along with the Choice Band. Some more times hitting for as much as 200 a turn with Excadrill. Again, another card that never saw a whole lot of competitive play, but some people are sad to see it go. Next up, we got Gardevoir EX. Now, this Gardevoir never saw a whole lot of competitive. Did see some competitive play, but got outshined by the Steam Siege Gardevoir, and I think that even then will still be outshined by our Burning Shadows Gardevoir. So we are losing this Gardevoir. Most people didn't play this Gardevoir. They played the Steam Siege Gardevoir even when they were playing Brilliant Arrow Mega Gardevoir. But actually no, this Gardevoir stays legal because it's in Generations. Never mind, forget what I said. We'll get to Groudon in a second once we get to the primals. Same thing with Kyogre, we'll get to them later. But yeah, this Gardevoir got reprinted in Generations, I believe. Yep, it did. This one got reprinted in Generations, so it stays. Next up we got this is a card I'm sad to see go, was Nidoqueen. I'm definitely gonna put a video of this before Elite Standard though. It was my very first deck when I started playing about a year ago. Poison Jab with Barrage lets you do 60 damage plus poison. Combine that with a Nidoking on your bench, it would make it do 110 per turn. Plus now with things like Choice Band Kukui, I thought this deck could have saw some great success with the slower format, but unfortunately I never got a chance to play it. I think I might take it up to my local league and have some fun with that later this weekend. Now we're getting to Primal Groudon. Primal Groudon's always been that sleeper deck, that fighting deck that everyone wants to make work. It sees a lot of great success in Expanded, but never really saw some competitive viability in Standard this past season, but really never got to top tier. Has the great Barrier Ancient trait where your opponent's trainer cards cannot affect Groudon, so they can't Crushing Hammer it, they can't Lysander it. They basically stops them from denying you energy or taking easy knockouts. Plus the Giga Volcano attack does 200 if you have a Stadium card in play and you discard that Stadium. Combine that with like 2 strong energies and you're hitting for 240, knocking out most things in the format. A good deck that unfortunately never got the chance to shine. Primal Kyogre, another one of those decks that a lot of people will try to make work but never really saw a whole lot of competitive play. Maybe I think it did at the end of last year, but never really saw any competitiveness this year. Water decks were kind of out of the format besides Greninja Break until Lapras came out. Again, this is another card that I don't feel like has a whole lot of impact on the meta, but it's a deck that's going to be leaving the Standard format. As we keep going through here, again, not a whole lot in Primal Clash as far as Pokemon goes that we are losing. We do lose Trevenant EX, which could have saw some interesting things with the Venusaur that we were getting in Shining Legends. giving yourself basically, if you guys don't know what Venusaur does, it doubles the amount of grass energy attached to your grass Pokemon. So if you had 3 energy on this Trevenant EX, it would make it count as 6 for the turn, letting you do, instead of doing 110, lets you do 170, which is a pretty good number to hit. I think, but we do have Shining Genesect, which will replace that as a non-EX attacker. Moving on into trainer cards. Primal Clash. Cards that we are losing from Primal Clash is the trainer cards that we're going to lose from Primal Clash is more relevant. We are going to lose Acrobike, I believe so. I'm not sure if this. Not sure if that. I think actually it might stay. I think the trainer kids let this card stay. Not really a card you want to be playing right now with Garbodor. I don't think you'll see a whole lot of play post rotation. We do lose Archie's Ace in the Hole, which used to be a very impactful card, especially with things like Deluge Blastoise. Could have saw some things with Primarina, but ultimately there just wasn't a reliable way to keep cards to dump your hand without being punished. Dive Ball is a huge one that we lose. This only affects water decks, so really Greninja Break's gonna have a really hard time dealing with this loss to their arsenal. Just being able to grab a water Pokemon for free was really strong and really powerful, but I think if they wanted to keep printing really powerful water Pokemon, that this card definitely had to go. This is definitely going to make things like Greninja have to rely heavily more on Ultra Ball and things like Timer Ball, because we also do lose Level Ball in this set. All this stuff right here got reprinted. Spirit Links. Maxie's Hidden Ball Trick, again, another card that didn't see a whole lot of competitive play in Standard this year, has dominated Expand with Yveltal and Maxie's. But again, another card. It's not something that we're sad to see leave. I mean, some people might be sad to see leave because it leaves some cheeky decks, but not a huge impact on the meta. Repeat Ball again is another arsenal that tool that Greninja used to grab their Greninjas. That's leaving the standard format. We do lose Rough Seas, which is a pretty important stadium. It sees a lot of play in water box type of decks, including Ninetales. Just being able to heal 30 damage from your water and electric Pokemon every turn is really nice. Unfortunately, though, this is the only printing of it, so we will not be seeing it in the new year. Scorched Earth did get reprinted in Fates Collide, so it stays. Shrine of Memories pretty much destroys Mega Mewtwo as a deck, as it currently is, being able to use Damage Change. Although Mega Mewtwo itself really has not seen any play since Garbodor came out, having that weakness, and also Mewtwo heavily relying on items as well. Silent Lab's a big one. This right outside of Garbodor, this is the only way to shut down your opponent's abilities from basic Pokemon. This would shut down things like Shaymins and Tapu Leles, as well as Energy Evolution Eevees and things of that nature. Without Silent Lab was being the only counter to basics abilities. Currently, right now, it kind of hurts that we're seeing this card leave the format. But I definitely think there will be. I guess there's a Low Muck, which I don't see people playing in their decks really, unless Muck GX becomes a really strong deck. Just because Silent Lab was just a stadium. You didn't have to evolve a Grimer into a Muck and then have it sit on your bench. Teammates, we're losing Teammates, which does suck. Really good in those decks that get behind early. Being able to play Teammates now even with Tapu Lele, Tapu Lele for Teammates for 2 cards that you need to get yourself set up, especially in a slower deck, was really nice. So Break did see this deck a lot. I feel like this makes slower decks a little bit weaker now. We'll have to see if maybe we get reprint of this or as the same card but as different text. I mean, same effect, just different card name. Weakness Policy, I believe, is getting a reprint in not Guardians Rising, Burning Shadows. So that card will come back to us, I believe. As far as energy goes, we do lose something. I can't remember what it is though. Most of the special energy though has never really seen any competitive play. Let's go with Primal Clash here. Wonder Energy has some uses in Gardevoir GX. Being able to prevent your opponent from confusing your opponent from Espeon was thought I had playing Wonder Energy as a one-of in a Gardevoir deck, but again, this most of the special energies that we have not seen a whole lot of play except for Splash. So that was Primal Clash. Moving on to Double Crisis here. This is going to be really short because really the Pokemon here, none of them really had a big impact. Double Crisis was a really weak set in terms of Pokemon. No new decks came out of it. Moving on to Primal Clash trainers, there's only 2 that really impact the meta in any way, shape, or form. Team Magma Secret Base, of course, being the big one. Being the stadium that Drampa decks like to play to activate their Drampa without having to rely on their opponent hitting their Pokemon was a really nice way. Although a lot of decks have started to drop the Team Magma Secret Base in favor of Rainbow Energy just to attach and then go. I always felt like Team Magma Secret Base was just a little bit better, just because you didn't have to waste the energy attachment for turn to put damage onto your bench, and you could just keep swinging with your Drampa. That's gonna have a huge effect on the meta, but we do have a new stadium that kind of replaces it, but not as nearly as good. I can't remember the name of it, but it does the same thing, but only when you evolve your Pokemon on your bench. Team Aqua Secret Base saw some play in some rogue decks, causing retreat costs of everyone's Pokemon being 1 more. There was a Eradicate deck that played this. Basically, it was a lot of cheeky decks that try to play that card. There's no energy in the set that we lose that are relevant, so I'm not even gonna bother going over them. Next up, we got the big set, Roaring Skies here. With a lot of cards we are losing. We're losing this Articuno that was played in a lot of Water Box deck because of the Tri-Edge attack, doing 20 plus 40 more for each head, so you flip 3. Plus with the Delta Plus Ancient Trait when letting you take 1 more prize card. Sometimes led to some cheeky situations where you can get a cheesy knockout on your opponent and take an extra prize card, sometimes up to 3. Also, we are losing... Gallade never saw a whole lot of popularity. Hydreigon, while not being a great card, was a great card in Como-O. Some people were playing this in Como-O, not to great competitive success, but it's sad to see, tools for a low tier deck go away that help, but I'm pretty sure that we'll get some kind of replacement for Hydreigon. Latios leaving standard format, never really saw a whole lot of play in standard, but sees a lot of plays in expanded with the first turn Donk deck. With Latios and Decidueye as the evolution sprays. Basically, it's dropped through their whole deck, and Donkey it's the deck expanded, so it doesn't really apply to us. Mega Ray goes down the toilet. Mega Ray getting rotated out. Mega Ray has been a very dominant deck for a very long time. Time for Mega Ray to get out of the way and let something else new come in and take its place. It was really strong because you can do 30 times 8, which is 360 damage. No, wait, no, 240 damage in 1 turn with Emerald Break attack. And also with the Delta Evolution ability, letting you evolve in the first turn, is really strong. Combined with things like Shaman and Hoopa, let you fill up your bench really quickly, along with Skyfield to up those numbers was really strong. The next thing that we lose out of this set, well, of course, the Rayquaza go with the Mega Rayquaza, is the Big Daddy Shaman. The setup ability has been ruining the format for the last probably year and a half. Sky Return, also a double color attack, letting you return it to your hand with a DCE. And then replay the Shaman. This card was dominant for so long. I'm happy to see it leave. It's made decks so quick that slower decks just could not keep up whatsoever. And if you weren't playing Shaman, you were playing the counter Shaman. Pretty much with Shaman being gone, a lot of decks are going to all become really slow now because we don't have that instant draw 6 without playing a supporter. Next up we got ourselves, no, Thundurus, we don't need to talk about you. I think that might be it from Pokemon from this set. Let's go on to trainers now for Roaring Skies. So, some of the important trainers that we lose from this set are Mega Turbo. Mega Turbo, pretty much you're playing this in the Mega deck. Whether you're playing Mega Ray, Mega Scizor, Mega Mewtwo, Mega Gardevoir, you're playing Mega Turbo just because it was so good. But now with us losing Mega Turbo, I feel like any Mega deck that's still going to survive rotation is probably not going to be nearly as effective as it used to be, not on top of losing Shaman and also being heavy item reliant, with Garbodor being in the format. Mega Turbo being gone just officially kills off most Mega decks in my opinion. There's some possibility of Scizor making a comeback. That'll be counter to Gardevoir GX. Next up, Skyfield. Most of the relevant decks, the biggest deck that got hurt by this got rotated out. Mega Rayquaza, Mega Gardevoir used this stadium to great effect to fill up their bench and then discard their bench to do extra damage and then recycle. This decks that are currently relevant that really get hurt by this are, of course, Mega Gardevoir, as well as Lycanroc, Raichu, and Passimian really get hurt by this card being rotated out. I feel like it makes Passimian almost unplayable now, just because Passimian needs a big bench to fill up their bench and also have their support Pokemon. But things like Field Blower made it difficult to begin with anyway. So, Skyfield, one of my favorite stadiums. I wish it would get reprinted in some capacity. Next up, we got Trainer's Mail leading the standard rotation. Another one of my favorite cards, personally. But even though it's getting rotated out, most decks weren't playing this, with the exception of a couple, just because it was item card and Garbodor makes item cards really punishable. But this was a really good card because you top 4 cards of your deck and grab a trainer card you find from those 4 cards that wasn't not Trainer's Mail. But then you grab a Supporter, an Ultra Ball, a Spirit Link, Mega Turbo, Super Raw, whatever trainer card you needed, you could grab with Trainer's Mail. Also, it thins out your deck extremely quickly, letting you grab the cards that you want. Next up, a card that has kind of defined the standard format since it's printing, VS Seeker, letting you reuse your supports from your discard pile. With this gone now, I feel like that we're going to start seeing higher supporter counters, higher support counts used with Tapu Lele and higher Tapu Lele counts, just to act as a VS Seeker grab once from our decks that we need to play. Things like, Fisherman, Fisherman, Hex, which we're getting rotated out. Cards that are staying, I think, though, we would want to grab with this would be things like Kukui, maybe Hala, Malo, to draw, and then also to things like Bridget. Grabbing those one-off supporters that are not necessarily great to have multiples in your deck. Often you just discard them with Ultra Ball and just use VS Seeker to pull them out. And then energy that we lose from Roaring Skies. I don't think there's anything too relevant, if I say. Oh yeah, there is one. There's one big one that I hope gets reprinted, and that's Double Dragon Energy. Double Dragon Energy is the only thing that makes Dragon decks even remotely viable. I hope they reprint this as a Secret Rare in Burning Shadows. That way we keep Double Dragon Energy in the format. Otherwise, decks like Noivern and Como-O are going to struggle to be relevant still, just because of the way dragons work, being 2 different energy types for their attacks. Really hurts them. Double Dragon Energy helped you counteract that by giving you 2 of every energy onto your dragon Pokemon. Without this, dragon decks are going to have a really hard time staying around. And then finally, the last set that we are losing is Ancient Origins, which is, I think, just as impactful losing as Roaring Skies. Let's just go through alphabetically, and as you guys can scroll through, you'll see there's a lot of things that we are losing here. Oh my god, this is a big set, wasn't it? It was definitely a big set. Ampharos, not really a hugely relevant card. Ariados saw some play with Machamp EX to make Machamp do extra damage. We'll get to that later. Flareon. Every stage 1 deck would abuse Flareon, Jolteon, Vaporeon to take advantage of your opponent's weakness. They play like 1 or 2 EVs with 1 of each copy of each of the evolution to hit weakness. Stage 2 decks like Lycanroc, Vespiquen, Lurantis even. Stage 1 decks that just, hit hard but want to hit harder against weakness. I'm definitely not sad to see this card go. I felt like it was stupid. Giratina, being the Mega counter, Megas are kind of fading out, so it naturally makes sense for Giratina to leave out. But I like the Chaos Wheel attack, even though it's kind of overpriced for what it does. Damage-wise, but its effect is really good, denying your opponent the opportunity to play Tool, Special Energy, or saving cards on their next turn was really strong against most decks. Next up, we lose Full Retaliation Gyarados, unfortunately. Although I feel like this deck kind of died off a little bit after Tapu Koko promo got printed. You guys don't know what this guy did. Here's his own deck. He did 30 damage for each damage counter on each of your benched Magikarps. So if you had 3 benched Magikarp, each with 2 damage counters on them, that's 2, 4, 6. 6 times 3, that's 180 damage. For a double colorless. And also with Guardians Rising, you're able to put on 2 tool cards onto your Pokemon, onto this Gyarados. So you can put on 2 choice bands and up that damage to one-shot anything in the format. Was kind of a sleeper deck that came out of nowhere and took over the format for a little while, and then people started countering it. Hoopa, probably the biggest thing that shut down EXs leaving the format here. Hoopa, when you benched it, you got to search your deck for 3 EXs to put them into your hand. So if you're playing something like Mega Gardevoir, you could Hoopa for 2 Gardevoirs and a Shaman, put the bench to 2 Gardevoirs, Shaman for an assload of cards. So Hoopa leaving the format's really healthy, pushing the GX format forward. Next up, we do lose Lugia, which Tapu Lele has kind of replaced. Only deck that really still plays Lugia is Decidueye Vileplume, just because Deep Hurricane is that tech. But Tapu Lele and Lugia both have Aero Ball and Energy Drive do the same exact thing. Also, Tapu Lele has no weakness, which is nice. But Lugia, not a card that has been slowly fading out of existence. Next up, we do lose ourselves Regice, which was a very strong card for a long time, especially in water box decks that play double colorless, because for water double colorless, 70 damage, and prevents all effects of attacks, including damage done to this Pokemon EX, denying your opponent any damage and kind of stalling them off, forcing them to have to do something with like a Lysander to get around it. Unknown only really saw play in one deck, which was Vespiquen. Pretty much a draw 1. You benched it, discarded it, drew 1 card. Was a really strong deck in Vespiquen for them to burn through their deck faster. And then, of course, we do lose Vespiquen, which is its own deck, and it's always been a strong deck since it first came out. When this card first came out, there was still battle compression in the format, so it was just a lot faster. People would combine it with things like Night March to hit bigger damage in the later game. And also but Vespiquen still to this day still remains one of the top decks in the format. If you're preparing for any event, you're always keeping Vespiquen in the back of your mind. It's a deck that's able to adapt heavily to the format quickly, because of it can just run 20 Pokemon, and it doesn't matter what those 20 Pokemon are. You could run several different techs in the forms of Pokemon, things like Hawlucha, things like the evolutions. Some people even for a while were playing with Stoutland. There's just been a lot of different Vespiquen builds that come up around, but it's always been a very strong and very consistent deck. The next thing we're losing is Vileplume. Yeah, I'm happy this card's gone. I always felt like Vileplume was kind of an unfair item lock card just because Forest of Giant Plants does exist. Being able to lock out both players of item cards, which was the only reason why this card was balanced, was that both players were locked out. But it forced, when Decidueye came out, this forced a lot of people to play at least one Hex Maniac in their deck to counteract this Vileplume and still play your item cards on your turn, even though that was only for one turn. Going on to trainer cards from Ancient Origins that we are losing. We are losing Trainer's Mail. Obviously, is getting rotated out with it because Trainer's Mail is secret rare, so this is all forms of Trainer's Mail leaving the format. We lose Steven, which is not a hugely relevant supporter. Losing Lysander is huge, but we do have a replacement in the form of Guzman. It's going to require, now without Lysander, you're not going to be able to just to Lysander out their Shaman for game anymore. You're going to have to use Guzma and then either have to retreat back into your attacker or have a second attacker built up. I feel like losing Lysander rotating out is healthy for the game, though. We do lose Level Ball, which does suck. This was really great in Stage 2 decks, because most times you can grab the Stage 1 off this Level Ball. But we might get a reprint of this later. I would imagine it's not a hugely broken card, so I would imagine we might get a reprint of this later. Hex Maniac, really cool supporter that we've had for a long time. I'm sad to see it go. Being able to shit off your opponent's abilities during both their turns, prevents things like Tapu Lele, shuts down Metagross for a turn, shuts down Greninja Break from Water Shuriken you for a turn. Also, it shutting down Volcanions for a turn is really strong. But sad to see this card leave the standard format for sure. Forest of Broken Plants. This is a card with it rotating out. People think Decidueye is going to be garbage. I personally feel like Decidueye could still see some relevance because of Rare Candy and the whole format as a whole being slowed down. But I would be surprised if this card's not banned and expanded. Next thing we lose is Ace Trainer, which is really good for those slower decks that can't keep up necessarily with the current format. If you get down in prizes, you play this. Both players shuffle their hands into their decks. You draw 6, your opponent draws 3. It was a kind of a alternative to N. Then finally, we have insert any energy in this set that we lose that are relevant. No, both of these energies never really saw any play. So that's the rotation of what cards we are losing. The big ones are definitely, we're losing Shaman, Hoopa, Mega Ray, Gyarados, Vespiquen, the Evolutions. Those are definitely some of the big ones. As far as, you know, trainer cards go, we're losing Level Ball, Hex Maniac, Lysander, Force of Giant Plants, Trainer's Mail, BS Seeker, Ace Trainer, teammates, big supporters and trainers that we are losing in there. And energy, the big one is DVE. Definitely gonna slow down Dragon decks and make Dragon decks a little bit harder to play. But let me know what you guys think about the rotation down below in the comment section. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Till next time, peace out. We're just gonna go ahead and get rid of his choice band. Make our Lele live a little bit longer. We could Ultra Ball right now, but I feel like